have the white tarps over those hay bales. And for a second, I thought it was cotton on the hill, and I was like, there's no way that cotton's ready. I was thinking, what is this miracle that these people's cotton's already baled and everybody else's isn't even open yet, or it's just opening? But nah, that's hay. Dang, man. To the left, there's a graveyard with a gazebo, and the gazebo's collapsed. The roof of the gazebo's on the ground. The pillars are all scattered around and stuff. I stopped by my friend's house after work, and now I'm going home on a route I don't normally go home on. There is an old style church. You know, it's not like a box, like it's still got the steeple. Might even have a church bell. What's this red truck doing these? A bunch of live oaks to my right. I was supposed to turn somewhere because I might be coming in early up there. I don't know. I kind of think if I just keep on going, I'll eventually see a sign. Here is one of those tower things, like what I'm talking about. I don't know what they are. But last night I was saying, dang, get off the reflectors. This camera don't. Fuck it. Sorry for my language, but it's all blurry. It's not going to zoom in. And I'm not going to be holding the camera, taking this sharp curve on close to it. Maybe I could get... That one looks different than the one at my house. The one at my house looks like it's got some kind of bullhorn or something, like 4 of them around it. Hello? Zurich players. Zurich. Is that Sweden, Switzerland, Germany? Zurich. That sounds familiar. Zurich. I've heard that before. What's up? I'm off work. I'm headed home. Stopped by my buddy's house, so I'm taking a little bit of a different way home than normal, and I might be going the wrong way. I don't know. I haven't really checked yet. I think I'm all right. Oh, some stuff in Arabic. I only know a little bit of Arabic, but I don't know how to read any of the calligraphy except like the Bismillah. I don't know it. I do not know Arabic. And I'm not able to get into the comment section to Google Translate to see what it is, and I'm driving. So, well, yes and no. Like, maybe, it's good to not be distracted while you're driving and just drive. But also, live streaming at other times is not a good idea. Because at other times I'm at work, or I've got stuff to do at the house, or I've got other responsibilities, or I'm spending time with Brittany. So this is the best time for me to live stream because I'm not cutting into anybody else's time or any other thing that I've got to do. And like it may look like I'm looking at you, like when you look at a picture on the wall and you move to the left and the right, it looks like the eyes are following you, but it's optical illusion. I'm looking at the road. I'm not really looking at the camera or the phone. Every now and then I'll look at it and look in the comments. But if I'm doing that, the road is straight ahead with nobody on oncoming traffic. I'm in the Georgia Plains. It's flat. I can see far ahead. There's this thing going on where it's like a fad in America to start talking about black fatigue. And black people will sometimes complain about white people avoiding them. And then there's the thing, you see the Scottish girl, right? Her sister done got raped by a gang of Muslim immigrants. And then they're trying to rape another one of the little girls, and she comes out with a battle axe and a sword, and then they put her in jail. And the Muslim recording, he acts like he's a victim. They like call the police like, oh no, like these little girls are after us. And then they talk about, like they call, like somebody put on, I don't want all these people coming into England. And they say, well, you made some Muslims feel anxious, and they locked the British people up in jail. And I think it's really silly. I think it's really silly for Muslims or blacks or any kind of group of people to be complaining about how they're being treated as a group when they don't self-police their own group. Like if the group of people that you're in is murdering a lot or raping a lot or stealing a lot, it's natural for people to start, looking at pattern recognition, judging you based on the group you're affiliated with. And when you look at Europe, how it almost had like no rape. And they let in the Syrians, the Turks and the Arabs, the Pakistanians and everything, and the people from Bangladesh. And now there's all these rape gangs raping all kind of people all the time. It's not unreasonable for white people to be like, whoa, there's a group of Pakistanians, let's not go near them. And instead of them getting mad at the white people, they ought to like police their own people. They ought to be like, yo, stop raping children. I know Muhammad was having sex with Aisha, but we got to be better than that. So, and they don't. That's the thing. Like I got the Muslim friends that I have, they're not really Muslims. They're not really living like Muhammad. They're not really following the Quran. They're not really trying to conquer the world. They're not really trying to enslave everything their right hand possesses. They're not really beheading people. They're just LARPing. They're pretending. They're pretending to be Muslims. And then they say, well, that's not what real Muslims do, even though that's what Muhammad did. He was a conqueror. And so I think it's kind of insane, this bizarre situation where there's Muslims quick to call the police in England, calling the police on British people for not feeling comfortable. It's just really crazy. And I would be ashamed. I would be embarrassed. You would think that Muslims would get on to the other Muslims, Like, you'd think that the Muslims would be like, okay, here is a rape gang claiming to represent us. Let's go punish them. Let's go put them in jail. No, let's go put this little Scottish girl in jail. Absolute. Like, like, most of the people that demand the most respect don't respect anybody else. You notice this? Like they go, be in a gang, drive-by shooting, shoot up the neighborhood, rob everybody, mug everybody, and then be like, how dare you be racist against me? How dare you not respect me? And just not have no respect for nobody else. Call everyone else infidel, goy, kafir. It's really crazy. I'm very embarrassed at white people's lack of balls and spine these days. They're so afraid to be called like a name that they let their whole country just be handed over. Where the hell am I? I must have made a wrong turn. I'm not the state law. Stop before pedestrians. I will stop for pedestrians. Pedestrians always have the right of way. Okay, I probably should have checked my GPS instead of keeping on driving down this road. This looks familiar. Montgomery Sheriff's. All right. You can go ahead. You go ahead. Oh, I can go ahead. I'm going straight that way. Okay, I'll go. They got the right of way, but they gonna let me go. I'm gonna go. Oh, I see why they didn't go this way. This is but I want to find a parking lot to look at the GPS. If I don't want to be touching my phone, right by the police and everything. I just think it's crazy.
It's really crazy that, we said, I'm talking about like, us more, like they label us all kind of names that don't really apply to us. But I would say the not Jewish controlled conservatives, the not Jew worshiping conservatives. Because, like a lot of conservatives aren't conservative, not with money or anything. They don't really stop the Marxist or the crazy ass social justice warrior liberal. They don't really conserve anything. They're just cowards. And they just try to be something in the middle between the far left and the right. They never actually represent the right. But also on the actual right, we predicted all of this. We were like, look, you import all these kind of people with this culture, this is what they're going to do. The Jews even said they were going to do it on purpose to destroy Whitey. They said we would resent them for it. And people keep blaming like the Mexicans and the Muslims. That's not the problem. You got to get at the core of the problem. It's the Jews. It's Jewish judges that keep getting in the way of all the laws being enforced. It's Jewish money that paid for all of these people to be brought into Europe. These people wouldn't have even been able to get into Europe without the help of stupid white people on the left and Jews. And the Jews did it so there wouldn't be a homogeneous, united society. So there wouldn't be the strength of unity. They brought it to cause chaos and disunity. They said, hey, let's put a whole bunch of Somalians in the middle of Michigan. Let's put a whole bunch of North Africans and Syrians in London. They did it on purpose to cause problems on purpose. Okay, I got to get... Wait a minute. That's the main road right there. I'm going to look on my map for a second. See where I'm... I was going the right way. I'm in Mount Vernon. It's, I always drive through Mount Vernon. I never drive around in the town. And it's crazy how, dang, I know exactly where I am now. I just never see this other side of town. It looked like a completely different place. Because I always just drive through it. And I'm always on that side of town or that side of town. I've never been to this quarter of Mount Vernon. So I'm like right here in Mount Vernon and thought I was lost. That's crazy. Because I normally just drive straight through it. Okay, so I need to go left to Glenwood here. Because I normally come in from that side. Now, I'm going to say something to the Muslims' credit. Because I really want to I don't want to get confused. Okay, because there is a difference between the ideology and the people, because all the people don't really form the ideology. And with religion, it's very complex because you can have two Christians, two Catholics, two Muslims, two Jews, and you start asking them about what they believe, and they may believe completely different things, so you can't just paint them all with the same brush, you can't. And so I want to say something, like Afghanistan, right? Afghanistan in ways is superior to America. Okay? You look 50 years ago. Now, there's ways America's superior to Afghanistan. Don't think I'm just saying Afghanistan is the greatest place in the world. But in America, 50 years ago, it was more than 85% of all brides were virgins. And the ones that weren't were widows. They were widows, okay? So fast forward 50 years in America, less than 5% of brides are virgins. Now, what about Afghanistan? They're marrying virgin brides. So in a way, that's a superior culture. Like, come on. So like a lot of people said that they're fighting America because they hate freedom. They didn't hate freedom. Maybe they do hate freedom, but that's not the problem. They hate degeneracy. So this is the thing. Muslims are right when they call the West degenerate. This is just insane. It's insane that 50 years ago in America, when you got married, your wife was a virgin. All the women were virgins. The only ones that weren't were widows. They were virgins on their first marriage. 85% of all brides, virgins. And then less than 50 years time with neo-Marxism and feminism and all this, less than 5% are. That's ridiculous. Less than 5% now? So it's like, so that's why they fight the West. Because pornography is not good. Having sex with a lot of people before marriage is not good. Hookup culture is not good. Divorce rates like this is not good. Usury and debt is not good. Jews controlling everything and you not having control of your own media is not good. There's a lot of things that the Muslims get right that the West is wrong about. And I always hear the wrong reasons to fight against the Muslims. They're always like, well, they stone adulterers. Okay, so they take a stand against cheating. Now, maybe that's too severe. Maybe, y'all, I might be crazy for that. And I'm not saying that that's like necessarily good, but I'm saying that's always what is given as the reason that these people are so bad. They always say these people are so bad because they kill people who cheat on their husbands and wives. And it seems severe. It seems severe in the Old Testament. But the reason these people made these seemingly severe laws is because the ancient people knew what happened when you abandoned them. They had went, all these, they'll talk about these Iron Age laws as being so primitive. They'll say the people in the Iron Age was so primitive for having these like super draconian laws. But you've got to remember that the people in the Iron Age are coming, before that, there was the Bronze Age collapse. All of society collapsed in almost every empire. And it collapsed for the same reasons. Degeneracy, high debt, famine, population displacement. There's a lot of reasons. So when America was safe and wealthy, they did not get that way. They did not get that way while they were degenerate. America did not become powerful while they were degenerate. America became powerful when they had the same type of views. America became powerful when they did not believe in premarital sex, when they believed in intact families, when they did not believe in all this usury and debt. That's when America rose up. But then when America felt safe and secure, they thought they could experiment with everything. They thought, well, let's just let women vote and see what happens. Brides don't have to be virgins. Let's marry stripper. America started to experiment. And then America started thinking that all these traditional values and all these traditional punishments were extreme. But the reason that in the Iron Age they had these strict rules is because they had already learned the lesson from the Bronze Age collapsing. They had already seen what and we've forgotten what rapid debt does and hookup culture does because we didn't have it. Like in the 60s when they did the sexual revolution in America, nobody was getting AIDS or herpes or any of that because they had saved sex until marriage. So before the 60s, America didn't have a lot of STDs. And that's why they felt safe to just experiment with being a bunch of degenerates, And so people think, they look at the Muslims who are punishing adultery and they say, these are evil people. Why are they so harsh on these women? But you know what? Look at what happens when you don't do that. Look at the divorce in Spain and Portugal, 95% divorce rate. Look at that. Look at how all of society is falling apart. And now you've got the most idiotic, like people are literally arguing that a man can be a woman and a woman can be a man. Total insanity. And why are they arguing this? They're not arguing this in Afghanistan. Nobody in Afghanistan is confused about this. Nobody in Afghanistan is like, a woman can be a man. Now, Afghanistan has its own degeneracy. There's a lot of child molestation. There's a lot of little boys being molested. There's a lot of there's a lot of Muslims doing un-Muslim things in Afghanistan. I'm not saying that. The point I'm making, though, is it seems to me that the reason Gen X and the boomer generation their problems with Islam, like if you ask me, like why I have a problem with all this Muslim immigration in London, I'm like, well, all these kids getting raped. But if you ask boomers and Gen Z, they're like, well, they punish adultery. They stone adulterers. That's what the boomers and Gen X are so, that's why they hate Muslims, because they're degenerate adulterers. They're an adulterous generation. So I got a lot of Muslims that hate me and everything because of what I said about Muhammad, but their own scholars say the same thing about Muhammad. Their own scholars say Muhammad married a 9-year-old, had sex with a 9-year-old. I think he married her when she was 6. Now, if I was raised Muslim, I'd have to try to justify that. I'd have to be like, well, it's okay because it was Muhammad or God told him, or maybe she aged quicker. But I have the luxury that I wasn't brainwashed into all that. I just know it's wrong to have sex with a 9-year-old. And I can say, well, Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old, so he's a piece of shit human being that deserves the death penalty for being a child molester. So that's why a lot of Muslims don't like me. But I'm not like, I know who the real enemy is. I know who's really trying to destroy my people. It's the Jews. The Muslims, the Jews use as a weapon. The Jews open the borders and they want to bring the Muslims in. They want to bring the low IQ barbarians from like, Somalia. They want to bring in like all these people. They want to like raise a bunch of people in Mexico City to be Marxist and anti-gun and all that. And then the Jews pay for them to come to America. George Soros is a Jew doing this. It's the Jews that are pushing this. You got to open your borders. You got to be afraid to be called a racist. You got to let everybody into your country. You have to be blind to other cultures and what they are. You're not able to see patterns. You're not able to generalize, make any generalization whatsoever. And so I know who the main enemy is. And we can talk about drain the swamp all day. We can talk about deporting people all day. But as long as you're going to let the Italian Jews and British Jews control America through the Federal Reserve, as long as you're going to let Jews who hate us, who want a one world government, print up as much money as they want to print, we're not going to fix anything. Because the Rothschilds, they can print up as much money as they want and buy politicians. They can print up money and buy judges. And you've got all these Jewish judges on the Supreme Court and all throughout all the judges in America. If they're not a Jew, they're normally a Mason. And a Mason is a useful idiot of a Jew. A Mason is some stupid Christian or stupid Muslim, some really dumb person that's greedy, that wants to be able to make more money by joining the Masons, and they have no idea who they're working for. The Masons were founded by Jews. It's a way to make Jews super powerful by sharing a little bit of those international connections with non-Jews. And, some Mason might call himself a Christian or a Muslim or whatever, and they're paying their dues to the Masons, and that money's being kicked back up to the Jews, Luciferian, Satan-worshiping Jews. So, all the Supreme Court, all the courts in America are under the control of the Jews. And so when you just try to enforce a law that's already a law, it's already a law that illegal immigrants are illegal and you try to just deport them. Some Jewish judge is going to block it. Some Jewish AIPAC-backed congressman is going to be like crying because you called an illegal an illegal. So you got to really go to the root and heart of the problem. The root of the problem in America, the absolute root problem, is the American people. It's not the politicians. It's not even the Jews. It's the American people that have no spine, that don't stand up for nothing. It's the American people that are addicted to debt. It's the American people that buy the filth that the Jews sell. The Jews can make all kind of perverted movies all day long, but they wouldn't make no money off of it if no one was buying it. The Jews own all the porn companies, but who's fucking watching the porn? You see what I'm saying? So the root problem is the American people need to change and become a more moral people. And that's not what anybody wants to hear. They want to hear it's the politicians' fault, it's the Muslims, it's the blacks, it's the illegal immigrants. No, it's you. It's the American people. It's your fault. So we need to take responsibility, personal responsibility firsthand. But who's the enemy within? It's the Jews. It's the Rothschilds. It's the Rockefellers. It's the Warburgs. It's Goldman Sachs. It's the Colombian, the Collins family. It's all these different Jewish banking families. And it's really, if I say it, then they'll say it's anti-Semitic. But you can go listen to the rabbis say it. You can go and you can look in the Jerusalem Post. You can look in Israeli newspapers. You can you can watch Jewish rabbis out of their own mouth say that the European people are Amalek. You can watch Jewish rabbis say it out of their own mouth that they believe that they're supposed to rule over the world, that everybody's supposed to be their slave. If I say it, they'll want to cancel me. They'll want to sue me. They'll want to fine me. They'll want to call me evil, but they'll say the same thing. It's like, you remember the guy from The Godfather, Marlon Brando, years ago. He said, Jews control Hollywood. Well, then he wasn't able to find any work. They wouldn't let him work anywhere. Then he apologized and he could work again, which just went to prove that he was being telling the truth. And you can look up who's the management and the CEOs of Fox and CNN and MNBC. It's all Jews. Facebook, Jews. YouTube, Jews. Google, started by 2 Jews. And Jews can say it. Jews can brag about it. That Jew, Jimmy Fallon, he can get on there and brag that Jews control the media because they're so smart, right? But then I say Jews control the media. Facebook's going to say, oh, that's anti-Semitic racist trope that's not founded on anything, that's a baseless conspiracy. And then you can flip the channel and hear Jimmy Fallon saying it's true. So I done lost all my viewers, I guess. So, I'm not advocating for like super strong and the Bible itself on adulterers and homosexuals. The Bible says that. But Christians will say Muslims are bad because they're doing what the Bible says. What the Bible says. You know what I'm saying? So it's that kind of hypocrisy and that kind of, I don't like that. Now me, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to be any kind of wolf in sheep's clothing. I don't want to be unauthentic. I don't want to pretend to be something I'm not. So I'm just going to say, the truth of, I'm not sure. I have not completely decided on what my stance is with that. Now I will say this. I've read the teachings of Jesus Christ. And I really like Jesus Christ. I really admire Jesus Christ. He spoke truth to power. He got punished for it. It seemed like he was just doing good all the time, and people didn't like it because it showed them for who they were. So you had these people, these Pharisees, trying to pretend like they were the goody two-shoes, best people in the world. But Jesus just living a good life made them look bad and exposed them for being hypocrites. Plus, Jesus himself told people, yo, these Pharisees are hypocrites. And I've got no problem with Jesus Christ. And I cannot justify the belief, but I think I'm pretty much there. I pretty much think he rose from the dead. But I don't really trust the Bible yet. I don't know that I believe the Bible. I find it very hard to trust the Jews about who God is. I mean, the Jews just lie so much about everything that I don't know why I would just trust the Jews to tell me who God is, And I'm not so sure that God ever told one race of people that they're better than the other people or chosen or any of that. I think it might have been their own narcissism that they called God, because you look at Abraham and he goes into the land, he's a foreigner, he comes from Iraq, he goes into Canaan and he's like, God told me I'm going to have your land. Why would God tell him to leave this place? He ain't going to take these people's land. And then he's like, I can tell you're a godless people. So that's why I lied to you. Or, he didn't tell them that Sarah was his wife. He just told them that that was his sister, which was true because he married his sister. Think about this now. Abraham married his sister, and he's like, well, she's my sister of my father, but not my mother. So he's basically like, it's cool that I married my sister because she's my half-blood sister. We have the same father. And then he goes into a land where they don't marry their sister. And he says, these are a godless people. I think they will kill me to try to take my wife from me. So I'm going to just tell them that she's my sister. So then the king of the land, he wants to marry Abraham's wife because he thinks she's an unmarried sister. And he gives a lot of gifts to Abraham to get in good with Abraham. And he takes Abraham's wife, Abraham's sister, into his house. And then plagues break out. And God's like, don't touch this woman. That's Abraham's wife. And Abraham, why'd you lie to me? Why'd you tell me that she's your sister when she's your wife? And then Abraham's like, look, she is my wife, but she is my sister too. Okay, so let's think about this, right? At this time in history, in the land of Canaan, these people aren't having sex with their sister, and they're not trying to steal Abraham's wife. That's just something in his head. It turns out he's wrong about it. It turns out the king's a righteous man that God speaks to that wouldn't have done that. He wouldn't have even took Abraham's wife into his house had he known that it was his wife. But Abraham was a coward. He was scared they'd kill him to take his wife. And he leaves out the detail that it's his wife. And then he kind of like pimps his wife out to get stuff from the Canaanite king and the Egyptian king. So then I'm just starting to doubt that Abraham's so righteous. Is Abraham so righteous? Or is Abraham just a narcissist that has sex with his own sister, that has 300 and something slaves, that says that God chose him, that says he's the chosen people? But is he? Or is he an inbred degenerate? Now, I know I'm gonna like, Christians ain't gonna like that, Muslims aren't gonna like that, Jews aren't gonna like that. But like, it would be one thing, like I understand, like you start off with Adam and Eve and they have sons and daughters, and there's nobody for the sons to marry except the sister. There's nobody else except their mama, which would be worse. So it's like there's this trend of they're marrying their brothers and sisters, then they're marrying their cousins, then they're marrying their first cousins, then second cousins. And you don't get any command from God that you're not allowed to marry your own sister until Moses. Moses shows up, and Moses is like, God's got a new rule. So you can't marry your sister no more. That comes about with Moses. But from Adam to Moses, there was no law saying you couldn't marry your sister. But guess what? The Canaanites still weren't marrying their sister. Abraham was. And why was Abraham? Why does Isaac marry Rebekah? Because he cannot marry his neighbors. He'd rather marry his cousin than the people. His mama's like, I would die if they married these people. I couldn't live if he married these people. It was because Abraham and Sarah, they're so racist that they would rather have sex with their own brother and sister than a foreigner. They would rather have sex with their own brother and sister. So they started off racist. They started off narcissistic. They started off inbred. And we're supposed to listen to the guy who's fucking his sister to tell us who God is? I mean, really think about that. Is the guy who's having sex with his sister, is that who knows who God is? And then he's going to kill his own son because he says God told him to. Then he said God told him not to. Just cut off part of his dick instead. And so I'm just not so sure that God ever said any of that. I'm not so sure that God ever said, yo, Jews, I'm going to free you from Egypt, slavery, so you can go enslave the Midianites and the Amalekites and the Jebusites and the Girgashites and the Hittites. You know what I'm saying? Like, what sense does that make? What sense does it make for God to deliver the Israelites out of Egyptian slavery and then send them to go enslave other people and kill every man, woman, and child of other people? And so sometimes I wonder, maybe the Jews are just lying, and maybe they've always been lying. Maybe the Jews were always lying. Maybe the Jews were greedy for power, wanted to kill people, and if they said, yo, we're very racist, we want to enslave and kill people, people would have been like, well, you're a piece of shit. But it changes when they say, well, God told us to do it. And that's kind of what I think. I think that there is a God that is a creator, but I think Jews lie about his nature and who he is. I don't think that God created all the animals and then is like, okay, I want you to burn them on an altar. I don't think he like, what the heck? I grabbed the wrong. Okay, here we go. I mean, what sense does that make? And look, what sense does it make where you do a sin, but then kill the sheep, put the sin on the sheep and kill the sheep? What sense does that make? That seems like, you know how narcissists scapegoat? They have a scapegoat, a golden child. I just think that Jews have a long history of like narcissism. And then when they have an impulse to do something, they want to say God, you know, like they come out of Egypt hungry for power. And that's why they want to kill all the Canaanites and take their stuff. They're lazy. They don't want to work. They don't want to work. That's why they want to take houses they didn't build and vineyards that they didn't plant. So I don't want to be on here and kind of pretend that I'm something that I'm not. So I'm saying, you know, I trust that maybe Jesus knew who God was. Maybe Jesus is telling the truth about God. But I don't trust that these Jews are. I don't trust it because of their actions and because it's just like they're constantly like, we're better than everyone else. Everyone's supposed to serve us. Meanwhile, and they're like, we're the superior race. Meanwhile, they're so inbred. They got so way high rate of mental illness. And it started very early on because of their racism. They were so racist. They're just like, can't do it. I got to marry my sister. Can't marry these people not with my same last name. I'm too racist for that. They're like, oh, I can't do it. Can't marry my neighbor. Got to go marry my cousin. And then during the Middle Ages, they would even break the laws of Moses. Because like I told you before, they didn't have a law against that incest until Moses. That's when so Abraham's kind of in the clear. Because Abraham marries his sister, fucked up. Everybody knows. Look, the Canaanites did not need Moses to tell them not to marry their sister. They were already not marrying their sister. That's why Abraham was the weird one. They're like, what? I didn't know she was your wife because you said she was your sister. So I'm just saying, I think that we're too quick. Like, we ain't heard God say nothing. And then some human comes up and is like, hey, God told me I'm the chosen. And then we're just like, yeah, I'll believe you. You know, I'm saying we're too quick to take a person's word. Like, you think about how many things that you'll say, God said this, God said that you never heard God say. God never told you any of that. Some human told you that God said that. So what I'm saying is, did God say that? And then God is all powerful. He can be everywhere at once. What's stopping him from telling you? And humans lie so much, right? Humans are always lying. So why send a liar? You know what I'm saying? Why send a liar when you could just tell it? Like, when God can just speak to us, God can just say, yo, so why do we have to put our trust in a human that lies? And, you know, I could be wrong, you know. Maybe I don't know, but I don't know, but you know, like some people, what's up, Axel 8080? I remember you from last night. I don't think stream it. And like, I already read that comment, but I'm just gonna say it again. I do not know how to read Arabic, so you've got to post it in English. And then there's some other languages. Now, this is me being, I guess, kind of pretentious and maybe a douchebag. And maybe this is just, but I'm just going to say it, right? If you post in Spanish, I could get on Google Translate, but I'm not going to. Okay, English is the most widely spoken language in the world. There's more Chinese speakers than English speakers, but they're all in one area, China, pretty much. But the most widely spoken language in the world is English. The air traffic language, the language of pilots, is English. I'm an American. And also, like, America is way more powerful than Mexico. So if you're a Mexican, you can type it in English for me. I'm not going to learn Spanish for you. It makes more sense for you to learn English than for me to learn Spanish because leverage. My nation's way more powerful. I do not believe that Arabic is the language of heaven. Maybe it is. I don't know. I do not believe that Arabic is a superior language. And I'm an English speaker. And I could do the work to learn other languages, but I'm not going to. Most of my viewers are American. Besides American, it's Canadian and the UK. After that, it's German. And so there's not very many Spanish speakers. There's not very many Arabic speakers. Almost everybody on my channel speaks English, and I speak English. So if you want me to reply to anything in the comments, it's going to have to be in English. Now, I may, out of curiosity, I might look it up, see what it is in English, read it, and then still not reply. And still not reply because I have foreign language fatigue. I'm tired of people coming into my country and being here 30 years and then commenting happy birthday to my sister in Spanish. You've had 30 years. 30 years you've been in this country, talking about soul. You've been in the country for 30 years and don't know how to say happy birthday to my sister and put it in Spanish on Facebook. I'm tired of that shit. So, and another thing about Spanish is it's got such a small vocabulary. Y'all's dictionaries are so small. When you see instructions, where the instructions are in Spanish, English, and French, the Spanish section is so long because y'all do not have sophisticated words. You have to use like 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 little bitty words and put them together to make a word that we already have a word for in English. So because of that, I think it's an inferior language because it takes so many words to use one word. And I'm not putting in the effort to learn the language. Now, there's some languages I think are superior. Like I could understand me learning Greek because it's a very precise language, or Ethiopian because it's a very precise language. It has a lot of vocabulary to describe a lot of philosophical concepts, and it's got, but like a language like Spanish is just a whole bunch of little words. You got to have like 12 lines of text to say the same thing you could say in English in 3 or 4 lines because you don't have enough words in your language. English just has way more words in the language than Spanish. As far as Arabic, it's like I just don't know I barely know any of it. I've learned a little bit of it. I've got a friend in Morocco, and like for him, I'll look up some words and I'll speak some Arabic, even though I don't, but I would do it. I had some friends in the Philippines. I'd learned a little bit of language in the Philippines, but at the end of the day, it'll benefit those people more to learn English than it will for me to learn their language. One day things may change, but right now, we are in the decline, but right now, I don't know. I'm just not. I'm not going to learn Arabic just to reply and take it however you want to take it. I'm just not going to. If